15th. And there's some news, Alex, huh?
There is, crazy news happening in this country right now.
There is some news that, quite honestly, has only happened one other time in my lifetime. This is the first time it has ever happened in your lifetime, where there was an attempt over the weekend on the life of President Donald Trump. As a friend of mine who got a lot of flack for that. Yes, they still refer to former presidents as president. So that is the proper terminology, President Donald Trump. That's not sufficing to say a political stance either way. No, but the only other time in my lifetime that has happened was the assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan in 1981. Only the 9th time ever that an assassination attempt, successful or not, on a president has ever occurred. Quite spellbinding, and I think it's relevant to talk about, obviously, Monday Newswire. And the question I had, and I'm going to phrase this, but then I'd like you to go to wherever's, where do we go from here? So, what do you got, Alex?
Well, I mean, crazy news happened, historic. I mean,
definitely. Let me do that before there. Hey, make sure you like and subscribe this on either LinkedIn Live, This Morning Live, or on YouTube, the replay. Make sure you like, subscribe. If you hit the bell on the YouTube page, it will alert you to every new video that's posted, whether it's a daily video, a podcast, or this Monday Newswire. Okay, Alex, back to you.
Yeah, no, that was great. Yeah, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button. It was history making, right? What happened this weekend was one for the history books.
Yes.
I was not around for Reagan. I know you were. I don't know if you remember it.
No, I was
too young. You're as old as my child. Yeah, he has no idea what's going on.
No.
But it's just whatever side you lean on, and where I watched everything. From Twitter or X and people what were saying there, to CNN, to MSNBC, to Fox News, to BBC, and I watch all of them, and I try to understand how. Because I come from the media, that's my training, my background as a producer. And so I like to listen to the rhetoric and the words and how they describe certain things. And you see earlier reports from CNN where, I know you're laughing because I know you posted on your Instagram of how they described what had happened. They didn't know. I don't think they knew, but it was a very, it didn't.
Well, it was very slanted. In reference, there was a story that I got was shared on Instagram. Cody Sanchez shared it. I reshared it. And the headline from CNN is Trump takes a fall during his rally. Right. And it's like, really? Come on. As the news was breaking, I think, it was instantaneous, the fall, that there was shots heard. And so, maybe that was buried in the story. That wasn't the headline. Okay, we won't get into that, but we will get into that because I want to share a perspective. Let's go here. So I mentioned this to you as in the pre-show as we were discussing some things. I have a friend right now who's in Greece, and I made this statement. I said, "Man, you are going to be forever marked by your perspective being in Greece and having this happen." He was like, "What?" He goes, "Kelly and I were in Israel at the start of COVID. So we were in Israel. We were in the country of Israel from the 1st of March till the middle of March, while all of the, COVID was breaking apart in the world. And quite honestly, we felt extremely safe there. We looking back, and people are don't know exactly how frantic people here in the U.S. were, but in Israel, all right, whatever, we'll just deal with this. And I think there's some people that way, but even the rhetoric that started to be told about the pandemic at that point, and also the experience of being in Israel and talking to journalists who are Israeli. There was a Palestinian man who was worked with Jerusalem Post. And he shared this story, and this is perspective on Israel. We're not talking about Israel. We're talking about the assassination attempt on Trump. But he shared this. He goes, certain media outlets only want certain types of stories. Mm-hmm. He goes, example, I, was asked one day hey, do you have any violent stories to be able to share? And he goes, yeah, actually last night there was an incident where there was 4 beheadings. And they're like, oh, wow, tell us more. And they're like, well, how many was it Palestinian on June? He goes, no, it wasn't. It was Palestinians that marched 4 people into the street and beheaded them. And they're like, nah, that isn't. No, we don't care.
Yeah.
And this was a guy who wrote for the Jerusalem Post, wrote for many international news agencies, and that wasn't news that they wanted. Okay, so that is the frame of mind that I'm coming to here. And my friend, and I asked him, what's going on? How is the take on in Greece? And he goes, they're all over it. They knew about it. They're watching it. Everyone in the world is watching what's going on. And it's being positioned as, oh, what is this going to do to unsettle the rest of the world? And domestically, sitting in Washington, you in Florida, and watching this and piecing together pieces of information and trying to figure out, what does this mean? And it comes back to this question: where do we go from here?
Yeah, and for me, it's okay. You get people get riled up from what they hear and listen to through the media, whatever form of media, whether that be a podcast or broadcast television, and they're fed information from these outlets, whether it's true or not, a certain narrative that they hear over and over again from people who appear to be smart and intellectual and credible in the know. And if you continuously hear that day after day, year after year, month after month, you begin to believe that. You get emotional about it. And I remember that happened to me over COVID too, when all the riots, and I'm like, because I watch to study. I don't watch to be like, that's the truth. I'm really a observer, and I study, these different thoughts and ideologies. And it's the media. What is the media, and how are they going to talk? And for me, I think that they're going to cool off for a minute, right? CNN and MSNBC and Fox and all the major outlets are going to cool off for a minute and then pick right back up where they left off. I don't think they're going to cool off on attacking one another for everyone's political views and ideologies, which may be different. I don't think it's just going to stop.
So there's two train. I want to follow up on that one. I read Simon Sinek, and I believe Leaders Eat Last kind of describes the situation in media in America and how it changed from being the most trusted people. Walter Murrah was, one of the most trusted news people. I remember watching Dan Rather growing up, right? And my parents watched CBS, Dan Rather, and he was like, okay, trust him. And that was before all the clicks. That was before the drive. And there was at one point, the FCC, the Federal Communications Council, had a edict where you had to be fair. And they changed that. I think it was in the 70s, where like, oh, you could drive media in order for advertisements. So you could earn some revenue. There used to be a requirement. News just had to be completely both sides. Mm-hmm. And that's the world we live in. And you now look at agencies that, coming back to the headline from CNN, it is what it is. They got press and clicks. Denver, that's it.
Did you see Denver Morning Post's newspaper article?
No.
It was an iconic photo of Trump going off stage, but then the headline was "Assassin Killed." It was like something ridiculous like that, like assassin killed in murder attempt or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, again, when you start to understand, man, it's really hard to find unbiased and to find the truth. And that goes back to what I told my friends. Like, you're going to get a much different perspective than anyone in the U.S. because you're not going to be so slanted. Mm-hmm. It's not going to come at you where you have to read all these different slants. I'm talking about, a defensive back of safety, and you're trying to read the route that the receiver is running and look at the quarterback's eyes, and you're trying to decipher all of that. That's what it takes in our world today with the information sitting at our hands.
Yeah.
And to your point, it's like, are they going to cool off? I don't think they can, because they have too many advertisers that they have to answer to, that of all of a sudden they aren't driving the number of clicks and views. They're not stirring the pot per se. It comes to affect their bottom line. I asked a friend, I haven't, the market, I don't know if it's open at this point, I'm looking at the time, but what kind of sell-off is going to happen in the stock market? What's going to happen there? What's going to happen at the Republican National Convention that's starting today? What's going to happen? And I think this is where it ties back into the main premise of what this show is about, what I am about, is how is it going to affect the workplace and leaders? And man, that's where it gets real spicy and dicey. It really does.
It's so, that's a great point. It's leadership, right? I had this conversation with my wife, and I have family members on both sides of this, and I'm the middle person. I'm the middle, and that's like I don't know if it's because I'm a Libra and I'm have like the scales and
balance. No, I'm a Cancer on the same way. My sister, she has worked on presidential Democrat campaigns. My dad is, I would say, more of a moderate conservative. My wife's family is very conservative. And I'm myself and a lot of friends, we're kind of right here in the middle. It's like, just.
Yeah. And so me and you were on the same point, but it was like, I loved hearing both sides of like strong leadership. It was a photo. It was when Trump, after he got shot, stood up and fist pumped and said, fight. And there's two. And so one side is going, that's like, look, after just attempted to being murdered, right? He had the vigor and the fight in him. And to be like, stand up, like I almost just got killed, right?
Yes.
He almost literally
for what I believe in,
freaking head, and he's like shows strength, right? Like he has the power, right? Which is a strong trait. And then you have people who lean left who go, oh look, he's rallying people to go, start a battle, right? And incite violence, and I'm like. Like, is this all?
It's
like,
hard to have it both ways.
If you almost got shot in the freaking head, and then you stood up and were trying to show strength. Like, the only other thing is you just run and get out of there, right? Because you're scared of your safety, right?
Well, I think part of this, and I go back into the framework as part of the impact-driven leader curriculum. It's meaningful here. Is one of the biggest things to lead is you have to have clear vision. And I think, if anything, that iconic picture that will last for millennia, it really will. Because one, it's once in 9 attempts in 200 and 50 some years, right? You're looking at a long time. We still talk about what happened to Lincoln. We talk about Reagan. We talk about those things, and yet you have this image, flag in the background. This is not a political stance one way or the other, but when you think about Washington to Lincoln to JFK to the President Bush during 9/11, and some of those pictures of iconic pictures, and you're going to say, what does that mean? And I come back to the question, where do we go from here? Yeah. And I think a big part of where we go from here, and centering it back to, you have to have a clear vision, and then you have to connect with people. And I think the biggest thing that will come in the next few days is which candidate, which party use this catalytic event. It could be described as a black swan event, Chris Voss, just those things happen. But who uses this time to connect with people?
Yeah.
And then who further uses it to divide? Because great leaders use it to connect. That is how you get influence, is you connect.
Yeah.
Great leaders don't divide. You allow values, you allow those things to divide, and you call people together to connect. And to your point, and in the mention of, there's a point to fight here. There's a point to fight and say, you know what? Your children, my grandchildren to be deserve better. And a part of that is being able to freely have an opinion, that we can talk about it on, a context such as this and not have to worry about being censored. Yes, we may have to worry about the keyboard warriors. Bring it on. Okay, great. Because all I'm asking for is, let's use this as a point to connect and come together, as a point to divide. If it was Biden, I'd be saying the same thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Again, if it was RFK, someone who's willing to stand out and say, I have a vision. I'm calling people to that greater vision. the leaders that can do that and connect and influence, those are the ones, to use a comment I saw the other day, those are the ones that we build monuments for.
Yeah, I think, listen, I mean, if this, I hate doing the speculation game because it didn't happen, right?
That's
It
what
happened.
we're here for.
Right, that's why we're here. I know
Come
it's
on.
like, and if it happened to someone else, like it would be equally as monumental and historic.
Yeah.
And whether the reaction was strong or weak or this or that, like I don't know. I mean, we don't know.
Yeah.
It didn't happen.
Yeah.
It happened the way it happened in real life.
Yeah.
And so, and you're right. It's like like for the audience, like pay close attention. Watch Joe Biden, President Biden, watch Trump, and see how they react. They spoke on the phone for the first time, which for in a long time, I'm guessing, just recently. Maybe that's a good thing, right? And just, I think it is like, let's take a break of just everyone basically hating on each other for freaking whether they're Republican or Democrat. And I have family members in both sides that lean both sides, and I love them all the same. I love my family both equally. And just listen, and we all do too. There's none of that here, thank God. But like, yeah, I think for those out there, like really pay attention and just see how each party reacts. Their big conventions are coming up. I think the RNC's now and the DNC's in a week or so. And just let's see the rhetoric that comes out of these parties and make your own decision and see who you gravitate towards and how their response is. But to your point, Tyler, like leaders should bring people together, and let's see who does that over the course of the next few months.
There was something I read this morning, and it, whether it's the case or not, it'll play out. But it was mentioned that, Trump's changed. It's like, okay. I've never been within millimeters of losing my life. I have had a situation where it was my own stupidity. I was impaled by a golf club. It mixed my femoral artery by about 2 inches. Okay. But, it wasn't the same where someone was trying to take my life. It was my own stupidity, right? Okay. But when I stop and think about this, and I stop and think about, how is this going to change him? Because I think when you talk to anyone, it doesn't matter their beliefs, their foundations, their spiritual whatever, when they come that close and realize, oh boy, I was in an accident when I was 14. My sister was driving. I was in the back seat. I didn't have my seatbelt on. She ended up sliding through an intersection, hit a telephone pole, electric pole. I flew forward, hit the back of her seat. From that day forward, for the last 31 years, I will not ride in a vehicle without a seatbelt on because I feel naked. That's just, it imprinted that on me. Okay. And so when I think of this, how is this going to move Trump? It's going to. Absolutely. It will move people around him. It will move those in his family. It will move those people that are either on his past cabinet or future cabinet if he wins the election, whatever. But it will change them. And what does that change look like? Yeah. And from that, I go back to the opportunity as leaders is the vulnerability that with which he speaks of that change will impact and influence people. Mm-hmm. Absolutely will. And I think that is what I'm looking for the next few days is on both sides. Because there's a party here. I don't know, Biden's got to be thinking, oh, man, that could have been me.
Yeah, I know. Scary. It's very scary.
That could have been me.
Yeah.
It's not a far-fetched to think that.
Yeah, Tyler, just last question. Speaking of leaders, you've seen a lot of high-profile leaders like Elon Musk, Bill Ackman, a bunch of others come out and give their support to President Trump. What would be a takeaway for leadership or anyone in leadership or management positions, kind of moving forward? Around.
Yeah, for sure. It's he's a man. He's a man that should not die for his beliefs in being willing to throw himself in the arena. The great Teddy Roosevelt quote, the man in the arena, right? And so as a leader, it's, I think, the opportunity to stand forward regardless of your beliefs and embrace everyone and allowing them to have feelings in their beliefs. And I think really the thing that we need to do, and we need to quickly caution, is when people want to take go on the offensive. And I don't think that's right from either side. I don't think that's right for people that are trying to bring up the conspiracy theorists that it was an internal job. Come on, just take a break. As my mentor, John Maxwell, will say, just take a chill pill. Like, take a chill pill. It's okay. Like, here's a man who's standing up and acting in a way to bring vision and direction to a group of people that believe likewise to him. That's it. And the opportunity as leaders to sit back and say, okay, let's take a deep breath here and understand what's going on, and how can we progress forward and allow democracy to play out. Not shenanigans, not, this undermining game that seems to be making up politics, whether it's true or not. That's what's portrayed, right? Is to say, all right, as we're stepping into the office today, as we're interacting with people that maybe we didn't talk to over the weekend, allow everyone to have their own feelings. And that's okay. And it doesn't mean that I think the feeling should be coming out with angst against others. It could say, just take for a moment and understand the gravity of the situation and saying, how can we be better? And I think as we, the one thing that I've heard from many, and I agree this is a point, is choose to be human today rather than side politically. Choose to be human. Choose to be a person that respects life.
Right.
And lives of those that agree with you, disagree with you.
Right.
That's how we all get better. Our iron sharpens iron, as the great ancient wisdom says. And as one mentor told me, iron doesn't sharpen iron without a few sparks.
Right. And Tyler, I think, my son's about to be 3 in about a month. And I think about how to explain to him, not the events that happen, but when people disagree with you or have other opinions, and you may argue with them, you may be combative and have that debate, but you should never want to hurt people just because they may think differently. And I'm trying to explaining things to a 3-year-old so he doesn't hit somebody because of a certain situation. And it's like that human element of just there's going to be people with a lot of different ideologies and thoughts, and son, it doesn't mean you have the right to hurt them. You should never hurt anybody. No one should, mentally, physically, emotionally. It's okay to debate and have conversations like that. But and so I now that my son's young, I'm like thinking about these lessons in life.
There's 2 pieces there that I think, and it's one thing that I've trained about discussed within the Impact Driven Leader community, is be fascinated. Choose to be fascinated. We all have our beliefs for different reasons. None of our beliefs are factual. We can't make factual decisions. We make emotional decisions that are often informed by facts, whichever facts we choose to, rely on. And so choose to be fascinated why people have the opinion they do. Here's the other piece to that, is we should encourage those to have a different viewpoint. It's the only way that we can see the world differently. If not, we'd all believe the world was flat. We'd all, be stuck without a wheel. We'd all be, because someone believed different. And it took that bravery, but also someone willing to listen to it. And I think the people that are most, it kind of comes back into this, the best leaders understand when to be a follower and embrace followership. And I think here's an opportunity to be fascinated. If someone wants to have a debate and discussion, great, invite it. Hey, why do you feel that way? What facts, what beliefs base that decision? Great, because I want to know so I can better understand you, because that's going to create a deeper connection. And through that connection, we can actually go somewhere together. Yeah. I think that is a great point to end on, is choose to embrace others' opinions and be fascinated and encourage that disagreement. And, if an argument ends up through conversation, that's okay. It's okay to have those, because that's what brings us forward as a culture, as opposed to shutting down any disagreement because you're either unwilling or unsubstantiated in your own feelings. Embrace it. Be fascinated instead.
Hey, Tyler, speaking of great leaders, I know you have an event coming up.
Yes.
How can people attend? Who's going to be there?
2 weeks from today, July 29th and 30th, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. John C. Maxwell will be speaking, as well as Graham Cochran, Jake Thompson, Katie Casada. It'll be an amazing event, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, right on the edge of the lake. A stunning, stunning venue. I'd love for you to be there. Go to tylerdickerhoof.com. There will be either a pop-up for that event, or you can go click on Work With Me and see the annual summit link. Again, would love for you to be there. As we wrap up today, thanks for joining us. Thanks for being here live on LinkedIn or watching the recording on YouTube. As always, remember to subscribe here on YouTube. Click the bell so that you get alerted for whenever we have this live version, or that we release new podcast episodes on Wednesday, other shorts that are done throughout the week, either from different takes or shorts from videos, but from podcast videos. So again, thanks for being here. Until next time, choose to lead with impact.